Yeah, I fucked up during the time me and my wife were off. We weren't fucking with each other for like a year. Which I gotta tell y'all my business because you motherfuckers is cheater. Y'all just a cheater. Cheating where? Where are they? Excuse.
The courthouse was silent, so silent you could hear every heel click, every whispered rumor, every camera shutter waiting to catch the moment everything finally broke. Jasmine Washington walked in with her head high, ready to fight, ready to expose, ready to reclaim the narrative she's been gripping onto for years. But when the judge read the ruling, her entire world collapsed in real time. Kirk Frost didn't just win, he obliterated her case. The restraining order? Granted. The harassment charges? Stuck. The trespassing accusation? Confirmed. And the biggest blow of all? Her attempt to force child support and legally corner Kirk was completely shut down. Jasmine stood there trembling as the judge laid out every detail of her meltdown, every receipt Kirk's lawyers gathered, every piece of security footage showing her banging on his door like a woman possessed. Kirk sat back calmly, arms folded, watching the same woman who once flipped his marriage upside down lose the last bit of ground she had left to stand on. By the time the gavel dropped, Jasmine wasn't just defeated. She was legally boxed in, publicly humiliated, and facing consequences that could destroy what little peace she had left. And the worst part? This was only the beginning. Long before the courtroom doors slammed and Jasmine Washington watched her entire world crumble under the weight of legal paperwork, restraining orders, and a judge who had clearly heard enough of her excuses, the tension between her and Kirk Frost had been brewing like a storm no one could escape. This wasn't just drama. It was years of unresolved resentment, emotional warfare, and a scandal that never truly healed. Back in 2016, when Jasmine stepped into the spotlight claiming Kirk fathered her son Cannon, the entire Love and Hip Hop universe exploded. Kirk and Rashida's marriage was thrown into chaos. Fans were divided, and Jasmine went from being a background character to the most talked about woman in Atlanta overnight. The affair wasn't just a mistake. It was a bomb dropped on a family that had barely survived previous explosions. Rashida cried on camera. Kirk denied everything until he couldn't. And Jasmine stood firm in her truth, refusing to be silenced or shamed. The DNA test ultimately confirmed what everyone feared. But even then, the emotional wounds never closed. Kirk retreated, Rashida rebuilt, and Jasmine was left raising their child in the shadow of a scandal she could never escape. But things didn't end there. Jasmine felt abandoned, ignored, and disrespected. She felt Kirk had left her to fend for herself publicly while he repaired his marriage privately. The resentment grew. She tried to co-parent peacefully, but when she felt unheard or dismissed, the anger resurfaced. Meanwhile, Kirk did what he always does when cornered: shut down, avoid, distance himself until the storm passes. But Jasmine wasn't a storm that blew over. She was a woman clinging to the belief that Kirk owed her more than just a check every month. She wanted accountability. She wanted communication. She wanted recognition. And when she didn't get it, the bitterness turned into shouting matches, late-night phone calls, and unexpected pop-ups. Behind the scenes, Rashida reached her limit too. She was exhausted from fighting for a marriage that had already taken every piece of her pride, patience, and privacy. She pushed Kirk to create boundaries, to protect their household, to shut down the Jasmine chapter for good. But Jasmine, already feeling unstable emotionally and financially, saw that boundary as rejection, and she reacted accordingly. For months, rumors swirled that Jasmine felt Kirk was dodging parental duties, not stepping up, not showing concern for Cannon's education or daily life. She vented online. She vented to castmates. She vented to anyone who would listen. But the moment that changed everything, The moment the court case became unavoidable was the night Jasmine pulled up to Kirk and Rashida's home and started banging on the door. She was furious, crying, yelling about being ignored, demanding answers that Kirk wasn't ready or willing to give. Neighbors were terrified. Cameras caught everything, and Kirk realized right then this wasn't just drama anymore. It was a legal liability. But for Jasmine, it was a breaking point. The world painted her as the villain, but she was drowning, hurt, broke, sending texts that went unanswered, raising a child alone while carrying the weight of a mistake she made years ago. She never expected the situation to explode the way it did, and when it did, she didn't know how to pull herself out of the chaos. She loved her son, but she was trapped in the fallout of the affair, unable to outrun it, unable to escape the narrative. And Kirk was tired of the drama, tired of the public humiliation, tired of reliving a mistake that nearly cost him his marriage, tired of Jasmine popping up whenever the cameras started rolling, tired of being pulled back into a storyline that should have been buried. This court case was the final chapter in a story that refused to end. Kirk wanted closure, Jasmine wanted redemption, Rashida wanted peace, and none of them realized that the battle that was about to unfold in court would be the blow that finally forced Jasmine to confront the truth she'd been avoiding for years. She wasn't just fighting Kirk, she was fighting the consequences of a past she never let go. The real explosion didn't happen in the courtroom. It began the moment Jasmine decided she wasn't going to let Kirk Frost ignore her anymore. After years of silence, unanswered messages, blocked calls, and co-parenting mishaps that felt more like a one-sided effort, Jasmine snapped. She had convinced herself that if she could just get Kirk face to face, without Rashida, without producers, without cameras, he would finally hear her out. But Jasmine didn't realize she was stepping into the biggest mistake of her life. It was late, close to midnight, when she pulled up to Kirk's gated house. At first, she whispered his name, hoping he'd come out calmly. But when minutes passed with no response, desperation turned into anger. She pounded on the door, yelling that she was tired of being ignored, tired of raising their son alone, tired of Kirk pretending like she didn't exist unless the cameras were on. She called him out for missing school meetings, for dodging conversations about Cannon's needs, and for treating her like a crisis instead of a co-parent. Neighbors were jolted awake, some watching from behind curtains, others recording from their porches. One neighbor even yelled that they would call the police if the commotion didn't stop. Still, Jasmine kept going, her voice cracking, her emotions spilling over, and her frustration boiling into something that didn't look like a mother seeking justice. It looked like a woman unraveling. When Kirk finally appeared at the upstairs window, he didn't come down. He didn't talk. He didn't even open the blinds fully. He simply said, "Jasmine, go home. This ain't it." But those words made her explode. She screamed that he never shows up, that he picks and chooses fatherhood, that he leaves her to deal with everything while he hides behind Rashida and his family image. Then came the first twist. What she didn't know was that Kirk had already called the police the moment she started banging on the door. And when the squad cars pulled up, lights flashing across the lawn, Jasmine's entire fate shifted in one brutal instant. Officers separated her from the door, asking if she was intoxicated, unstable, or threatening harm. Kirk came outside calmly with his hands in his pockets, telling officers that he feared for his family's peace, that Jasmine had been escalating for months, and that this wasn't the first time she'd shown up unexpectedly. Jasmine screamed that he was lying. She begged officers to understand that she was only trying to talk to the father of her child. But with neighbors confirming she had been screaming for half an hour, and with security footage showing her damaging the door, The situation spiraled beyond control. That police report, the one documenting her behavior, the eyewitness statements, the video, became the backbone of Kirk's entire court case. But here's the real twist. While Jasmine thought she had the upper hand because of their history, Kirk had been quietly documenting everything for months. The ignored calls, screenshotted, the angry texts, archived, the unexpected pop-ups at events, logged, the welfare checks she requested on Canon out of spite, recorded. He had a literal timeline of every moment Jasmine had crossed a boundary. His lawyers walked into court with binders, yes, binders, full of evidence. Jasmine walked in with emotion and accusations. The contrast was brutal. During the hearing, Kirk's lawyer painted Jasmine not as a struggling mother, but as a woman obsessed with controlling the narrative. They argued she used their past affair as leverage, that she weaponized her pain for attention, that she relied on public sympathy instead of stability. And just when Jasmine thought she could flip the script by claiming Kirk abandoned his responsibilities, the judge asked one question that changed everything. Can you provide documented proof of consistent co-parenting attempts that were ignored? Jasmine froze, her lawyer stalled, and Kirk's team slid forward printed custody communications showing Jasmine had blocked his number multiple times, skipped scheduled drop-offs, and withheld updates about Canon's schooling. That was the moment the courtroom shifted. Even Rashida, sitting stiff with her hands clasped, looked up with a hint of shock. Jasmine tried to defend herself, saying Kirk manipulated the timeline and edited messages, but the judge wasn't interested in excuses. When Kirk's lawyers revealed the security footage of Jasmine at his house and the police report labeling her behavior as aggressive and disruptive, the case was sealed. The judge's expression hardened. And that's when the first shocking twist dropped. Jasmine wasn't just losing the case. There was now enough evidence on record to justify criminal charges if she ever approached Kirk's home again. She didn't just lose support. She didn't just lose credibility. She lost the court's trust. And Kirk? He walked out not just with a restraining order, but with the legal leverage to pursue full custody of Canon. And that was only the beginning of her downfall. The moment the judge granted the restraining order and shut down every claim Jasmine tried to throw at Kirk, the tension inside that courtroom didn't calm down. It erupted silently, like a volcano bubbling under the surface, ready to blow again. Jasmine walked out with her hands shaking, her chest tight, her entire world spinning, because she didn't just take a legal loss, she took a public humiliation she could never come back from. But while everyone assumed Kirk's victory meant the saga was over, the real escalation was about to begin. Jasmine, desperate, furious, and terrified, called her closest friend immediately after court, sobbing that Kirk had set her up. She claimed he planted evidence, manipulated the narrative, and used his resources to bury her. Her friend begged her to calm down, but Jasmine wasn't hearing it. She started ranting about how she wasn't going to let Kirk win, how she had receipts of her own, how she knew things about him that could destroy his whole reputation. What she didn't know was that a paparazzi mic caught the entire rant. Every word. That audio hit the blogs within hours, turning the internet into a war zone. Team Kirk blasted her for delusion. Team Jasmine insisted Kirk was hiding something. The blogs ate it up like fresh drama off the stove. But the first real twist didn't come from social media. It came from DFCS, Child Services. After reviewing the police report, the late-night footage, and Jasmine's repeated displays of instability, they opened a surprise evaluation case regarding Canon's living environment. That hit Jasmine like a truck. She broke down screaming that Kirk was trying to steal her child, that Rashida wanted Canon removed from her life, that everyone was working together to destroy her. But DFCS wasn't acting on gossip. They were acting on documented incidents. And they already had their next step planned, a mandatory home inspection. When the caseworker showed up, Jasmine's nerves were so bad she couldn't even get through the interview without crying. She blamed Kirk for everything, said he abandoned her, lied to her, manipulated her, promised to co-parent and then disappeared. But when they asked for proof, her stories cracked. Emotion wasn't enough. DFCS wanted documentation, communication logs, medical records, school attendance reports, and stability planning, and Jasmine had none of it organized. Meanwhile, Kirk's lawyers were already building a second legal offensive, this time aimed at securing joint or even full custody. Rashida, who had remained quiet for years, stepped forward privately and urged Kirk to do whatever it took to protect Cannon from chaos and instability. For the first time, she wasn't just tolerating Jasmine. She wanted her gone completely. Sources say Rashida even told Kirk, "I forgave you, but I won't forgive letting her keep jumping in and out of our lives." That was the moment the escalation turned nuclear. Jasmine got wind of Kirk seeking custody and spiraled. In desperation, she tried to file her own countersuit, accusing Kirk of emotional abandonment, manipulation, and financial neglect. But the judge reviewing her request stopped the entire proceeding when he discovered a detail no one expected. Jasmine had been receiving money from Kirk for Cannon for years, even when she claimed publicly he wasn't sending a dime. And the receipts were undeniable: bank transfers, electronic payments, text confirmations. Her whole deadbeat narrative collapsed in seconds. She didn't just lose credibility, she looked like she had been lying for sympathy. And then the second major twist detonated. During the custody review, Kirk's lawyer submitted a sealed document that made Jasmine's eyes widen like she had seen a ghost. Rumors say it was communication logs between Jasmine and a producer, showing she had been attempting to stir up drama to get back on the show, planning surprise pop-ups, threatening scenes, and emotional moments, all hoping to make herself relevant again. In exchange, she hinted for higher pay and screen time. If proven true, this wouldn't just be a bad look. It could classify her behavior as intentional harassment, performed for financial gain. The judge reviewed the sealed file. His face changed instantly. And that's when he ordered an emergency hearing, one Jasmine didn't see coming. Kirk, calm as ever. Rashida, quiet, but with the confidence of a woman who finally had truth on her side. Jasmine, shaking uncontrollably. When the judge spoke, his voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Ms. Washington, based on the evidence provided, the court has serious concerns about your stability, intent, and decision-making regarding the minor child." Jasmine collapsed into tears right there. But the judge wasn't done. He suspended her unsupervised parental control until further review. Jasmine didn't just lose the case. She lost her footing as a mother in the eyes of the court. And as the courtroom emptied, Kirk's lawyer leaned over and quietly said the words that changed everything. "We're filing for full custody." Jasmine screamed, "You can't do this. You can't take my son." But Kirk walked out without looking back, and the blogs were already calling it, Jasmine might lose everything, including Cannon. The fallout from Kirk Frost's courtroom victory didn't just spill onto social media. It blew up the entire Love and Hip Hop universe like a bomb nobody saw coming. The moment word spread that Jasmine had lost her case, lost her credibility, and now stood to lose custody of Cannon, Atlanta erupted with opinions, shade, sympathy, and straight-up disbelief. Fans who once defended her were suddenly backpedaling, saying she had played herself. Others insisted she was being railroaded by Kirk's money, power, and calculated legal team. Twitter was a war zone. Instagram comments turned into boxing matches. Bloggers were dropping videos every hour. And the cast? Oh, they were watching it all unfold with popcorn in hand. Rashida, who had stayed mostly silent throughout the drama, posted a simple quote that sent the entire internet into a frenzy. God handles what we can't. People knew exactly who and what she was talking about. Mama D jumped in the mix, calling the court's decision, karma finally spinning the block. Even Carly Red commented under a blog post saying, "When you play Messi, Messi plays you." Meanwhile, Jasmine was nowhere to be seen. Sources say she locked herself in her apartment for 2 days straight, crying uncontrollably, terrified that DFCS would show up to remove Cannon. Her closest friend tried to comfort her, but Jasmine was spiraling, emotionally destroyed, financially drained, and terrified that this wasn't just a court loss. It was the end of her entire storyline, her reputation, and her fight to stay in her son's life. Fans went from roasting her to worrying about her mental health. Some said she needed therapy. Others said the show ruined her life. But the public wasn't the only storm she faced. There was fallout behind the scenes, too. Producers from Love and Hip Hop allegedly reached out trying to film a follow-up scene, hoping to capture her breakdown for ratings. Jasmine refused, screaming that they were the reason she was in this mess to begin with. DFCS called her for a second evaluation. Cannon's school reached out with concerns. Even her own family questioned her choices. Meanwhile, Kirk and Rashida acted like nothing happened, posting business promotions, family selfies, and motivational quotes like their world wasn't on fire. People called them cold. Others said they were protecting their peace. But the real emotional blast came when Jasmine tried to go live on Instagram to clear her name, only to break down in tears mid-sentence. She cried about being painted as crazy, accused Kirk of manipulation, said Rashida had been playing innocent but pulling strings, and insisted she had receipts she wasn't ready to drop yet. But viewers weren't convinced. Some said she was unstable. Others said she was overwhelmed. Some even accused her of acting for attention. The comments got so vicious she ended the live abruptly, shaking and crying. Hours later, a blogger leaked that Jasmine's landlord threatened eviction because she fell behind on rent after sinking her money into legal fees. That only fueled more panic. People started asking if Cannon was safe, if Jasmine had support, if she was mentally okay. Then came the emotional meltdown that made headlines. Jasmine allegedly showed up at her mother's house, sobbing so hard neighbors called to check on her. Her mother begged her to let the attorneys handle things, but Jasmine kept repeating, "They're taking my baby. They're taking my baby." Meanwhile, Kirk's camp doubled down, insisting their pursuit of full custody wasn't revenge. It was protecting Cannon from instability. Rashida privately told friends she wasn't trying to take Jasmine's child away, but she was trying to protect her home and remove the toxic cycle of chaos. Word spread that DFCS scheduled a surprise home visit at Jasmine's apartment, and that sent Jasmine into full panic mode, cleaning nonstop, crying, yelling that Kirk was destroying her life. But the biggest emotional fallout came from Cannon himself. Sources say the little boy started asking questions: why mommy was crying, why daddy was in court, why strangers were coming to his house. That broke Jasmine in ways the internet couldn't see. She told friends she wished she'd never gone on the show, never gone public, never exposed the affair. Because now, not only was she losing the legal battle, she was losing the narrative, the support, the sympathy, and possibly her son. And just when things couldn't get worse, another bomb dropped that nobody saw coming. DFCS contacted Kirk with a question that changed everything. Are you prepared for emergency temporary custody if needed? And that question sent shockwaves through both families, because it meant Jasmine wasn't just on thin ice. She was one misstep away from losing everything. Just when everyone thought the situation couldn't get any worse, the final twist hit with the force of a sledgehammer, shattering whatever fragile hope Jasmine had left. It started early in the morning, hours before sunrise, when Jasmine's phone began vibrating nonstop. Missed calls, unknown numbers, a message from her attorney saying, "Call me now." Jasmine, eyes swollen from crying, finally answered, thinking it was just another DFCS update. But the voice on the other end wasn't calm. It was urgent. "Jasmine, something new has surfaced, and you're not gonna like it." Before she could even react, she heard a knock at her door. Hard, loud, unmistakable. She froze. Another knock. DFCS didn't knock like that. Police didn't knock like that. This was different. Jasmine opened the door slowly, and standing there was a court-appointed investigator, holding a thick folder, eyes cold, face unreadable. "We need to talk," the woman said, stepping inside without waiting for permission. Jasmine's stomach fell to her feet. The investigator opened the folder and revealed something that made Jasmine's heart stop. Photos, screenshots, messages, emails, things Jasmine had never seen before. "These were submitted anonymously to the court late last night," the investigator said. "They paint a very different picture of your involvement." Jasmine blinked rapidly, confused. "My involvement in what?" Her voice cracked, breath trembling. The investigator slid the first set of documents across the table, and Jasmine's hand flew to her mouth, a scream trapped in her throat. They were messages from her phone number, her email, her accounts. Except she hadn't written them. They were fake conversations between her and producers, making it look like she planned the harassment of Kirk. Fabricated threats, edited screenshots, doctored texts that made her look vindictive and dangerous. Someone had set her up. Someone had gone to extreme lengths to frame her. Someone wanted her to lose everything. This isn't me," Jasmine cried, heartbeat pounding in her ears. "These are fake. I didn't send these. I didn't." The investigator raised a hand. "We're aware. Forensics will determine authenticity, but until then, the judge has ordered an emergency hearing." Jasmine felt her entire world collapsing again. A hearing? When? The investigator took a breath. "Today, in 2 hours." Jasmine nearly fainted. Her friend rushed over to help her stand. The investigator continued, "If the evidence is deemed credible, even temporarily, you could lose temporary custody today." Jasmine broke, completely. Tears streamed down her face as she begged, "Please, I didn't do this. I swear on my son. Someone is framing me. Please don't take him from me." But the investigator wasn't cold. She looked worried. "Ms. Washington, this level of manipulation required access to your personal accounts. Someone close to you did this." Jasmine froze. Her mind raced. Who had access to her phone? Who knew her passwords? Who would benefit from making her look unstable, dangerous, unfit? And that's when it hit her. Hard, like a punch to the chest. It wasn't Kirk. It wasn't Rashida. It wasn't a producer. It was someone she trusted. Someone who had been in her corner. Someone who had been encouraging her to fight back, expose Kirk, and take control of the narrative. Someone who suddenly disappeared when things got serious. Someone who had the motive and the access. Jasmine whispered the name, trembling from head to toe. Oh my God, it was her. Before she could say anything else, the investigator's phone buzzed. She answered, nodded, and slowly looked up at Jasmine with eyes full of shock. "We have a situation," she said. Kirk Frost and his lawyer just arrived at the courthouse with new evidence, and they're claiming they know exactly who framed you. Jasmine staggered backwards, gripping the wall. "Who?" she whispered. The investigator hesitated, then spoke the name that sent the entire scandal spiraling into a whole new dimension. "Your own best friend." The screen fades to black, and now, with Jasmine shattered on her living room floor, DFCS on high alert, Kirk marching into court armed with evidence no one saw coming, and the shocking revelation that her own best friend may have been the one secretly framing her all along, this story has officially gone from messy to downright explosive. Because if the accusations are true, if someone Jasmine trusted had access to her phone, her email, her personal life, then this isn't just a custody battle anymore. It's a setup, a betrayal that could cost her her son, her reputation, and her freedom. You have to ask yourself, who stands to benefit if Jasmine loses everything? Why would her best friend stab her in the back at the darkest moment of her life? Was she bribed, manipulated, jealous, or working with someone behind the scenes? And what exactly did Kirk walk into that courthouse holding? Was it the proof Jasmine needs, or the final piece of evidence that destroys her completely? Drop your theories in the comments, because this case is spiraling into something bigger than child support or restraining orders. This is control, power, revenge, and the truth waiting on the other side of that courthouse door is going to flip this entire narrative upside down. Make sure you like this video, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications, because Chapter 2 is coming. And when the judge sees the new evidence, somebody's world is about to end for good.